Okay, I'd say more accurately that we use Shinai along with the Bacham-do in our school. But to answer the question, we think that the Shinai are closer to what was actually used originally in the Wing Chun system. Wing Chun is a complete self-defense system, but you can't really find that out until you complete the system. So sometimes people will complain about us and they'll say that Wing Chun doesn't have a ground game and it doesn't have a distance game, and that's not accurate. We do address the ground and we do address distance, but it's not a game for us. But you can't really see all of that, particularly the distance, until you get into the weapons. Well, I started out with Wing Chun blades in 1990, early 1990, under Eddie Chung. I didn't really do very much. I just got a little introduction to the blades at that time. And then Eddie left town and I started working with Ron Heimberger, and he kind of started me over. So I had to wait a couple of years before I started in the weapons again. So it was about late 1992, early 1993 when I started working with the Wing Chun blades. But what Ron was teaching us, as you know, as time's gone by and I've thought about it, I really don't think that it was Wing Chun. I think that it was more closer to Kali. But he did teach us a lot of stuff that you could do with like smaller blades and closer in. So we did that. And then in 1997, Ron got with Ip Ching, and then we started working with what was the authentic Wing Chun blades form. And I did it in 1997, and I've been working with it and working it out since then. Throughout my experience in Wing Chun, my classes have been really small. Like, I think the most people who were ever in a class with me was like 8 people or fewer, and very often I was alone with my Sifu, my instructor. And that happened like in several different occasions with several different instructors, and so I had a lot of time that was one-on-one. And so in several cases, well, especially with Malcolm and me and Ron and me, my instructors were just a little bit more advanced than I was. So we had a really collaborative environment, and that's kind of what I expected of my Wing Chun. I expected it to be like, we talk about what was going on, we try things out, and if it worked, great. And if it didn't work, then we'd work it out until it did. I was mentioning already that as we move along in the system, sometimes it's only me and my instructor. And I like to have a collaborative environment. And so when I had students that I could work with, then we'd get together and we'd spar and we'd try things out and we'd see if it would work or not. But when you get to the Bacham-do and it's just you and your instructor, and now by that time he's got other students that are like newer than you, and they're coming along, and he wants to spend more time with them. So you don't get a lot of chances to spar. And I kind of noticed this. It's not just like my experience, but just about anybody who ever worked with Wing Chun and got to the blades form. They're almost always the last person in their class. There's always some attrition that goes on. Like, things happen to people along the way. They get married, they have children, they get a job, they move out of town, whatever, and they stop coming to class. So by the time that you're actually in this, learning the weapons systems, you're like the only guy, which was kind of the way it was with me. And so it's hard to get some real sparring. And one of the other challenges of working with Bacham-do is just the kind of blades that you've got. I mean, these blades here they're not sharp by any means, but they are heavy and they are metal, and you can't really hit somebody with full force with this without hurting them, and so you can't really spar with this kind of thing. So what tends to happen in those sessions is your instructor will come out and will say, here are the different applications of this part of the form, and so then you'll practice at it like maybe half speed, maybe 3/4 speed, going through and working with somebody who's doing exactly what you expect them to do, and then and you're supposed to just take this for granted that this is the way that the form works. I didn't really like that. I wanted to test it out like I'd been testing out the rest of the unarmed fighting system too. So when I started teaching, I tried to find ways that I could work with the blades with my students, and we did that, and working full speed and having them do random and unexpected things, and just see whether or not we could come up with something that really worked.